Hello again, everybody. Dave Stevens here, coming to you from the home office here in Bristol, Connecticut. Another edition of Press Box coming to you from my own TV studio. And of course, I'm Dave Stevens. It's great to join you and be a part of Press Box, because what we do at Press Box and the Disability Channel is give people an opportunity to not only showcase their disabilities and their abilities, but to talk sports. And that's what we're here about. So let me bring in my co-host, a guy that we've seen a few times on this show, and he's joining me from Canada, Casey MacKay. Casey, how are you, my bud? And welcome.
I'm good. Glad to be joining you, Dave.
And of course, we want to expand our world and our horizons. So I've also got another guy that's going to be helping us on Press Box, coming to you from Minnesota, where it's a little bit cold, but it's warming up. And baseball season is right around the corner for my friend Will Stein is now going to be a contributor. Hey, Will, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. It's warming up, as you said. I'm ready to get on the golf course soon so I can start playing golf, hence my attire that you see this morning.
Yeah, I know you just got you get to go to Augusta to the Masters, and again, our lives are kind of similar where we get to go all over the place. Casey just got done working on the Olympics up in Canada. So, Will, tell us a little bit about your story and why kind of we're getting you involved with the Disability Channel and Pressbox.
So, I first got into the sports and entertainment industry through a mutual friend of ours, Beth Silverberg. As far as my background, I grew up a big Vikings fan. My grandfather got me into the Vikings fan, and I fell in love with the Minnesota Vikings ever since. Um, I guess my biggest adversity with the becoming part of this is that I didn't start talking till I was 6 years old because I had some development disabilities when I was young. So I just continued to live the best life I can, and now I get to live a life through sports and entertainment, and it's one of the best things ever.
And you're selling yourself a little short. You've got a lot of high profile friends in the Vikings and the Timberwolves, and you're like a who's who, especially for me and my love for Minnesota. I mean, how did you develop these relationships with a lot of these players where we see you at Super Bowls and you and I cross paths almost at every single event, and the support you give?
So my first exposure to getting involved with the Vikings behind the scenes was right before I moved up to Minnesota. There was the Minnesota Vikings were trying to build a stadium, which is now US Bank Stadium, when the Metrodome was in place. I first flew in December of 2011. I met a great friend of mine, Carl Heinrichs, who's still an inspiration to me to this day. And just seeing the lifestyles that most of those fans live, it's like I wanted to move up here. And then I saw that they had a stadium rally. I went up there, met Mark and Ziggy Wolf, and then I went to Minnesota Vikings training camp where I met Chuck Foreman. And then it just, once I knew Chuck Foreman, then I knew these people, and I knew these people. Once you know one person, you start to know everybody, as you can attest to. And once you start knowing everybody, people come to you saying, "Who's this guy? Who's this guy?" And it's kind of just been everyday learning and growing opportunities.
And we all have similar paths. Casey's been immersing himself with a lot of NHL players. And Casey, for you, what is it like once these players get to know you and realize that, hey, you might be a little different, but you're still a big sports fan. You can talk hockey, and hey, you're just a dude like everybody else.
Yeah, it's amazing. And actually, I've gotten to know Morgan Riley on the Leafs quite well. We fist bump each other before games, pre-COVID, and we have chats. I give him little pep talks saying, "You better score for me," and I just love chatting with him. He actually follows me on Twitter, and it's just awesome to know that you can befriend hockey players, but really they're just ordinary people achieving big dreams. So that's how I think of them.
Well, that's what's great about us being able to get into their world and opening their eyes. And I know Will has been a part of some of my big games and, the support at our camps and things like that. But this is Press Box, so it's time to move on. And we want to talk a little bit of some of the fun sports. I guess the big news is, other than all the football free agency signings, is baseball's back. We've got baseball. It's going to be awesome. And as you can see, yeah, I'm a Twins fan, and, Will should be posting his Twins hat right now, but that's okay. Spring training is early, and you got a couple of weeks to get going. But Casey, I know you were chomping at the bit because the Blue Jays have some exciting players, and really they've been playing in Buffalo, they've been playing all over, and it's really a chance for those guys to shine.
Yeah, so the Blue Jays actually just signed Matt Chapman, and there's been a lot of rumors that when they sign these players, people like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. are going to have to move positions. So it's going to be interesting to see when they sign these big players, to see what positions they move, what the gameplay style is going to be like, if it's going to change. That's going to be interesting once we get into the regular season. But spring training is really the fun part, to watch players warming up and getting ready for the season.
Yeah, they're a little more nicer to the media and to the fans because they're not got the pressure of the regular season. But Will, I know we've got a lot of changes. It's great that baseball's back, but for me, a part of it's dying. I've been a huge fan of pitchers hitting. I love it. It separates the National League from the American League. And yes, I'm a Twins fan, but I'm a fan of pitchers hitting. And we would never have some amazing stories like Ohtani if we didn't have pitchers hitting, and now we've lost that DH. So what are your thoughts on losing the DH? I'm not a fan of it, but yet for guys like Albert Pujols, it extends their career.
I think the DH, I think it's fun for the fans' purpose because the fans like to see offense and home runs in the stands. But from a pure baseball standpoint, I like the bunt, move the runner over from first to second base, get the productive outs, sacrifice flies, small ball. It's a different style of baseball, but I think they made that move because the fans want to see the 3-1 homer, and that's kind of what I feel. But I think a lot of players would have chosen NL cities, like maybe Edgar Martinez plays for the Cubs the National League had a DH, and Nelson Cruz has the opportunity to go to an NL team. So a lot of players don't have those limited teams of 15 cities where they can choose 30 teams instead of 15 going forward.
Casey, what are your thoughts on some of these changes?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think that the pitchers need to get going on hitting the bats, and I think that it'll be interesting once the season gets going, what happens. As I said, the season is going to be the tell-all. Spring training, you won't know much, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens once the regular season happens. To see how gameplay styles change with the DH, with the pitchers, with everything between NL and AL.
Well, they've expanded the rosters as far as for the early part. So we've got rookies that don't have to worry about that free agency and those extra years and things like that. And of course, we've talked about some of the changes, the expansion of the playoffs, which is great for fans that are sitting in September, like, oh, our team is 20 games out. Well, now they still have more of an incentive to still, again, those wild card teams, once they get in, anything can happen. So, and the bases are changing. They're expanding that. I think they're trying to bring steals back, but we've got great catchers and some big changes. One of the big changes is Gary Sanchez going from the Yankees to the Twins. I don't know if I'm a big fan of that because he hasn't done well in New York the last couple of seasons. But Will, your thoughts on Gary coming to the Twins and what that's going to be for going from a major market team in New York to Minnesota?
I think Gary Sanchez has talent, However, the guy that he's replacing, Mitch Garver, who went to Texas, I'm probably going to miss Texas, Garver going to Texas and Donaldson going to New York. But you know how it is when some of the guys leave Minnesota, they have some of the best years of their career. Aaron
Oh,
Hicks
like
is
David
good.
Ortiz, maybe, like Big
Yeah.
Poppy.
David Ortiz is an example. More recently, Aaron Hicks. Look at what he's doing in New York, and he came up in our system.
Yeah, it's been neat to see him grow, and I got to meet him when he was rehabbing here in New Britain back in the day. But so we'll see. It's going to be fun. It does make it exciting. We're not talking about strikes. We're not talking about selfish owners and players anymore, and so that helps it. But as we put a ribbon on this first part of the segment, Casey, I want to touch base with you. A big win for the Maple Leafs recently, and they continue to do well. What are your thoughts on the NHL season? And I think you might even have an MVP candidate up there in Canada, huh?
Yeah, we have. I researched the 3 top contenders for the MVP race, and it's Matthews, McDavid, and Ovechkin. And being a Leaf fan, I do have to go with Matthews, even though he's coming off a 2-game suspension. I think the suspension was fair, but I also think in watching that, the league and the refs need to make more consistent calls on plays that aren't normally called, because especially this late in the season, you can't be losing key players to suspensions or to injury. So we really need to watch that, I think, as a league going forward. But the Leafs just had a great a couple outings from Eric Shalgren, who just made 69 saves in total over 2 games, and 1 game was a shutout. The second game, he only stopped he stopped 34 shots or 35 shots. So he's been great. Leafs don't have a starting goalie, which is worrisome coming into the playoffs, but we'll see come Monday at the trade deadline what happens.
Well, maybe they could pull that guy out of the stands they did a couple of years ago. Remember when the teacher came out right before the pandemic and actually got the win as a goalie?
Yeah, it was the Zamboni driver or Zamboni driver.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome, and that's what makes sports fun, and that's what we're about on the Disability Channel and Press Box. So we're wrapping up this first segment. When we come back, I'll show you a little bit of what I did at the Super Bowl. We'll talk football and free agency, and we'll put a cap on this show. I'm Dave Stevens. Will Stein joining us from Minnesota. Casey MacKay. You're watching
Press Box for the Disability Channel. Stay tuned.
Put your feet on those because that's the plate. So put 1 foot here and 1 foot there. He's going to throw it. You're going to hit. Do you see what happens at these kind of camps? I'm Dave Stevens for Pro Stance, and these tools are amazing, especially with special needs kids who don't really know how to play sports. You put these down, they step in, and it takes care of the rest. It's magic. Let's just see the results. Now you see these Pro Stance things on the ground. I mean, have you ever seen anything like that? And what are they like?
No, sir, I haven't. But they're good because, I mean, you gotta get to a good balance spot, and it just shows them like you can do it.
Now we've got these crazy things, these Pro Stance things. You saw those a little bit earlier. What'd you think?
You introduced me to them. I think they're pretty good for getting a nice little shoulder width apart, staying and get some traction. Just getting off that one back foot and trying to step out and drive the hips through it. It gives you a nice little block to set your whole foot on. So I think they're a pretty good invention. I think they should have came out a while ago, I think.
What are your thoughts about Pro Stance?
Invaluable. One word, invaluable. I mean, tremendous tool to use from disability dream and do levels, T-ball, Little League, right on up through.
I'm here with Zion Clark, the fastest man in the world on 2 hands.
And I'm Dave Stevens, and you know what?
I used to be the fastest man on two hands, and I think we're going to settle some things today, right, son?
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah.
You ready?
All right, see what this old man can do against this young whippersnapper. You ready? Who's going to set us off here? All right, we're ready, guys.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go!
You think I'm stupid?
Yeah, so that was my highlight from the Super Bowl. A lot of great interviews, but getting my butt kicked by a much younger version of a guy without legs, it was pretty humbling.
I think Zion could probably beat me in the race too, and I got 2 legs. So just seeing what he did at that military game was like, oh my goodness, this guy's probably even faster than me.
Yeah, it's funny, and we wrestled a little bit, and he kicked my butt. But I see Casey up there chuckling. Casey, your thoughts on this old man?
Yeah, I think you didn't stand a chance against him, Dave. That was pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, and it was the worst beer I've ever had in my entire life. I'd much rather have a Molson Ice or something from Canada. But it was a great week at the Super Bowl. Will and I, of course, a lot of the same events: the football game, Radio Row, all the celebrities that I got to interview and that we saw here on the Disability Channel. But as we shift gears, what an amazing offseason. First, we thought we lost Tom Brady. Then he comes back. Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere. He stays in Green Bay. And now quarterbacks, suddenly Baker Mayfield's no longer going to be in Cleveland and all these crazy things. So let me kick it back up to our man in Minnesota. And your thoughts on some of the free agency, some of the crazy things. And then are you guys sticking to your quarterback up there in Minnesota?
So to address the later part, Kirk Cousins is with us until 2023. I would say from a contract perspective, it only makes sense to have him for at least 1 year because if he is your quarterback of the future, you could extend him to that 4 or 5 year contract and next off season if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, then we have him for this year and next year, and then the 2023 NFL draft to go quarterback in round 1. But I would say my biggest surprise was seeing Devontae Adams, in a sense, go to the Raiders. But once Christian Kirk got that deal with the Jaguars, it's like Devontae Adams is going to want a lot of money. I even said that 3 days ago, and I wrote that. It's like Devontae Adams is looking at this Christian Kirk deal like, what the blimey?
Yeah.
What me?
I don't know what they're thinking. And, we get Aaron Rodgers back to fight the Vikings, which, it's kind of tough because it's a not win situation. But Casey, Tom Brady's retirement lasted what, 2 months or less? Like, what did that shock you?
It did. I actually wondered if it was a personal decision or it was more for contract base. But it will be. I'm glad he's back. I know he's a big name in the NFL, and I hope he does some big things coming back. So we'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, it's great to see some of these other changes. Baker Mayfield, the poor guy, really did turn Cleveland around, and that's kind of the things he's gotten. And just watching the dominoes fall, it's going to be, between baseball and football free agency, it's going to be a crazy couple of weeks here as old timers sign. As you mentioned, alluded to, Will, that contract is crazy, and that just sets the bar for other mediocre players, I think. And again, anybody in the NFL is a great player, but you know what I'm talking about at that higher level. If a team's going to throw out that kind of money, it's not going to set a good precedent, Will.
Absolutely. And like with the Jaguars, they got a lot of players that they went to Walmart and they were shopping Whole Foods prices or something.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's a wild time. We got March Madness going on. Obviously, that first round was crazy. The upsets that we had, Kentucky losing to St. Peter's. It's fun to watch. UConn is already out after the first round. And Casey, do you guys in Canada care much about our March Madness down here stateside?
It's so. I would definitely say the States. It's bigger. We're more NBA. But we do air it here in Canada, and the ratings must be okay because they keep airing it. So I think someone must watch it. But it's just amazing to see the teams and how well they do every single year for March Madness, and how crazy people go over it. There's so many fans for each team in this
And it's
season. So
Yeah, and it's been great to see the women's tournament is doing just as well in the ratings, and it's an exciting time, and we need that given what's going on in the world around that, and I just hope it can continue because sports has been the one thing given 9/11 and flooding and what happened and all these things, and Casey, you know how important sports is to a town like New Orleans and the Saints, like because they rallied around it, won a Super Bowl. What are your thoughts on the Saints?
yeah, so I was actually a big Saints fan when Drew Brees played on the team, because I'm a big fan of Ellen DeGeneres and she's from New Orleans, so I thought I had to follow the Saints because I liked her. It was only fair. But since Drew retired, I haven't been following them as closely. So I wanted to ask you and Will actually where you think the state of the team is headed, and if they're going to make any big moves this offseason.
Will, I'll let you address this one.
So with the Saints, they just got a new head coach now that Sean Payton is out. I think Dennis Allen has to set his own identity being the head coach of the Saints. I think he can do it, but there's a lot of expired people getting older, like Cam Jordan's not getting any younger. I mean, you got Michael Thomas. Can he come back off of the injury he had last year? Can Alvin Kamara stay out of trouble? And
Who's your quarterback?
It might be Deshaun Watson, but
and that's another headache. I mean, you want to talk about that? You've opened up a can of worms. I mean, it's a PR nightmare. Yes, you have this amazing quarterback, but and again, I'm not comparing it, but it's almost a Michael Vick type of situation where you're going to bring in and you're going to have all these advocates against women's rights and things like that, which is totally, totally important to care about. And Casey, I think it just opens up I don't know if the benefits of having a great quarterback are going to outweigh the negativity of the press. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I just think they need a good quarterback. I also think New Orleans needs another trip to the Super Bowl in their near future just to get that city ramped up again and have a reason to celebrate. Because Mardi Gras in New Orleans, it's crazy. So I think if they had another Super Bowl win, all the more reason to celebrate down there. So let's hope and let's go Saints, really.
Yeah, it could be an interesting season seeing Russell Wilson as a Bronco and all the other changes yet to come. Where does Baker Mayfield land? All those kind of questions. So we'll put that on hold until we talk next time. I want to thank Will Stein for joining us, our new correspondent for Minnesota. Will, what you got coming up in the next couple of weeks? Where are you going? Where are you going to be at?
Well, if my attire gives it away, I'd leave for Augusta on the 2nd of April to go to the Masters, and we got the women's Final Four here in town in Minneapolis, and then Twins opening day. So let's have some fun and maybe NFL draft. We'll see.
That'd be awesome. And by the way, where can people see your stories? How can they follow you? We want to build as much support as we can for you, my friend.
So I use Facebook most of the time. You can look me up under Will Stein. Also, I have Instagram at Stein&9, I believe, as well as Twitter is at Stein&9 as well.
All right. And for my old buddy Casey MacKay, what do you got coming up here? You going to be getting into any more Maple Leaf games or getting to something?
Well, I actually have a big event coming up with Easter Sales Ontario. It's their annual Conn Smythe dinner that they haven't been able to host in 2 years. It's where the provincial ambassadors get introduced, and it's a whole head table of sports celebrities. So Joe Carter and Eric Lindros are being honored this year, and Ron McLean, who's a big Canadian sports analyst, will be joining, and a lot of the Raptors super fan and a lot of other big name celebrities. And I'm just excited to meet them all and share my story. It's a chance for me to share my story with all of them and hear some of their stories as well. So I'm really looking forward to it, and that's coming up on April 6th. So
All right.
that's an exciting event.
That sounds great. And I'll be all over the place. I just got set up to be in the Celebrity Softball Classic again down in Dallas. So I'll be, Will, you might want to come down for that one. That's going to be a fun event down in Dallas with Michael Irvin and Zeke Elliott and a bunch of stars. And I don't know why they asked me, but I'll be down there playing. And we'll just continue to spread good word and show people that anybody can do anything that they want to do if they put their minds to it. So that's going to wrap up another edition of Press Box. Will, thank you. Stay warm, stay dry, stay happy. Casey MacKay again joining me, and I love your jacket, Casey.
Thank you.
That's an awesome
Even the
jacket.
inside has the Leaf logos.
Next time, turn it inside out and wear it. I want to see it that way.
Yeah, I don't know if it goes inside out, unfortunately, but
All right. Well, you're watching another edition of Press Box. I'm Dave Stevens. For my buddy Will Stein and Casey MacKay, you've been watching
Press Box with the Disability Channel.